Hey everybody, welcome to IndyCar off season D2 Speedcast number 27 of these. We're over a quarter way to 100.
Yeah,
It's going by fast.
it sure is. Last season was pretty short and sweet, wasn't it? So, but no, it's all going quite well, right? We just got back from a good test at Barber. A few interesting things with Formula One drivers starting to test our first kind of taste of that, right?
Yeah,
And a bit more time with the team and seeing how things are progressing after their good finish to the season last year at St. Pete, right?
yeah, they definitely ended strong, and I think we're starting this one off right. I think I've got all the audio like perfect. Everything's working.
Are
So
we good? All
first,
right, beautiful.
as
27
far as my
episodes to
little
get
my
it.
little levels box is showing, I think we're all set. So.
Okay, good deal.
Finally figured it out. But yeah, no, yeah, they ended really strong in St. Pete. And that seemed to be a good. Well, it was definitely a good end of the season, and through all of off season testing, it's been going great so far. So yeah, it's
Yeah,
been
no,
fun.
the engineering department's kind of stayed the same and kind of fluid with they've added it's kind of stayed the same, but they've had an addition with Justin.
I don't know
Oh
his
man, I
last.
can't
I
remember.
can't remember his last name.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
but no,
come
they've
on.
brought some new people on, and yeah, I think we've been saying after the tests and just after in post events. Darren and I were at the shop the other day, kind of debriefing from our Barber test, and yeah, everything's clicking pretty well. It seems like it's going smoothly, which you like. I think a big part of success of a race team is everyone working well together and getting all the
Yeah,
personalities right.
yeah. Yeah, and it's. I think the fact that we've had some continuity, not only with the engineering staff and the mechanics and everything, but you and Sebastian,
Yeah,
right? You had a kind of a tough year last year. Um, not necessarily a tough year, but
I'd say
it
it
was
was
a
a tough year. it was
it was a tough year for everybody,
no
right?
practice and ready to qualifying, and away you go. Like I don't know, that wasn't easy.
But it would have been better, let's say, if you were doing every
For
race
sure,
like you're going to be
100%.
doing this year, is what I was
Yeah,
kind of going on to say. And that continuity for you and that stability, it's your car, it's your crew, it's your engineer. You're not in and out. The engineers are, you go into the simulator, or, I think that along with the engineers, um, having some comfort and some stability, and it's so little, right? Your first race, right? You were a second off pole, and you were like 23rd on the
yeah,
grid.
it's
It,
so
it was,
tight.
and that was your first ever race in an IndyCar, for
Yeah,
Christ. You're crying out loud, right?
yeah, it's a tight fit,
It's nothing.
and it's only getting more competitive. Like, as you alluded to at the start. We've got guys like Grosjean coming in, and Jimmy and all that. It's like the depth of the field in IndyCar probably hasn't been like this for a long time, and I mean, it's just getting better and better. And I think it was cool to see Roma, or yeah, cool to see Roma uh, jump in the car and you know come away from the test saying that he just really enjoyed like the raw kind of feeling of driving an IndyCar. I mean, I've obviously never had the F1 experience you have, so you can kind of speak to that more. But from the outside looking in, it seems like those cars are a little more polished, a little more techy, and not as much of like a raw kind of pure machine as what an IndyCar is. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. The Formula One with it was great. It taught me a lot. Nothing ever is good enough. And the thing with the Formula One is, they can change everything. They build all the wires, the
Hmm.
nuts, the bolts, whereas we're buying Dallara parts,
Yeah.
right? Um, no power steering. I think we talked about it in the
Hmm.
debriefing. Barber's one of the heaviest steering load and G-force tracks that we're going to go to. especially after they've resurfaced the track. It's pretty high grip and even higher G now
Yeah, it's
with those
fast.
big compressions, right? And with no power steering, and it's hard work,
Yeah.
you know.
No, it's
Thank
crazy.
goodness you've got paddle shifts, you
Oh,
know.
I
Back
couldn't imagine back when you were driving, trying to go through one and downshift, shifting and all that. That's insane.
I know I've got a bad finger
Oh no.
to remember those days. But
Yeah.
yeah, Formula One, and I think that's what Romain, Grosjean. He is he Romain Romain? Come on, you're the
Romain would
French
like
speaker.
in French it would be Romain, right?
Okay,
But
so
I guess I don't
so
know, like
Romain.
I would say Romain, but like in English you'd say like Romain, I guess. I don't know. I mean,
Romain. I think I say
depends if you
Romain.
want to put the French twist on it, I guess.
Romain. That might be Italian, maybe. I don't know. But no, he came away from the test saying how physical it
Yeah, he's
was,
like, "Oh,
right?
I
I
had to go to the
think.
gym and work on my biceps." And like both Seb and I said the same thing. It was like with the load in the wheel at the end of the test there. Once the track gripped up and it cooled down, it was like those last two new runs on new tires were like, "Oh my God." You go like there was definitely a point where it's like, okay, I am at to a certain extent, you're like your strength limited. It's like it's not just the car.
Yes.
Car's
Yes.
performance is like what you can do. And to talk back or to refer back to F1, I have to say I kind of changed my opinion a bit on the power steering stuff because I've said for a long time, oh, it's you know they shouldn't have power steering, they shouldn't have power brakes. It should be more
Mhm.
pure than that. But then you brought up a good point. That's like imagine the IndyCar, which what I'm saying now that you're almost strength limited to a certain extent, especially on light fuel load, new tires. Imagine qualifying on reds. If you added 1,000 pounds of downforce or took away a few hundred pounds of weight from the IndyCar, try to
Yeah.
bring it up to what an F1 car is like, you couldn't turn the wheel. So
No.
there is a point where it's like the power steering is actually a performance gain. So I'll admit I've changed my tune a bit on that. I mean, I'm not saying that we need it or that I want it in IndyCar, but I'm not like not I'm not looking down on, not that I look down on F1, but I'm not like
Yes.
criticizing F1 for not for having power steering. I think when you think about how fast and light or how fast those cars are, you probably need it
Yes.
anyway.
That's right. Their tires, they're developing those tires probably more than what Firestone are with the two options,
Hmm.
right? The reds and the
Yeah, they
blacks.
have
I think
5
Formula One have what,
ones,
three or
right?
four every
Yeah,
weekend. Um, it's a lot more development going on, like you say, a lot more lighter cars,
yeah.
power assisted brakes. But I think that the IndyCar downforce and weight and grip level, like you say, is at a track like Barber, you're about on the limit
Yeah,
of
it's
physical
kind of all you
performance,
got.
right?
Like the big one, really, I think for that is like coming after turn 13 down the compression up the hill towards pit lane. Like that
Mm.
one, just to keep your foot flat, it's like that's like max strength, like peak effort.
Yeah, no, like the test we were talking about, the test that we just did last week. There was only 12 cars there, right?
Yeah,
And the track still rubbered in,
yeah,
and got grippier and grippier throughout the day. And then you put your new tires on, and you don't use red qualifying specs, softer tires, more grip, more performance, more weight in the steering. Um, in practice,
no,
do
yeah,
we? We
you
don't
only get
use
them on
them.
race weekends.
Yeah, so no, it's gonna be interesting come April 18th
Yeah, looking
or
forward to it.
19th, whenever.
And
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think that we've got a couple of oval tests coming up, right? Where are we going
yeah,
next?
well, before we dive into that, just wanted to say I've got my
Okay,
my AJ Foyt Coyote shirt on here. Got some of these from
love
the
it.
team's merch store. So they're probably out of stock now because I know these like sell out super fast. But if you guys want the AJ Foyt stuff, you can check out their website. And then I actually have some hats, some new hats, some winter toques, which the weather is warming up, but there's free shipping on hats for now. So hats and then DK team hats and all that. And website store link is in the
Great.
description thing below, so check that out. And I guess we are 10 minutes in. You're supposed to do this early, but remember to like and subscribe and all that. Apparently that helps out with
Yes,
the YouTube.
make sure you like the video and subscribe for sure.
Yeah.
Get notifications. Turn the notifications on.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate that. But no, yeah, and just you know the schedule. They actually in IndyCar sent out a release today, and I've got the. I mean, there's no date changes, but it's the broadcast schedule. I've got it here
Okay.
pulled up. So basically, this just shows the schedule and dates and tracks that we're at, and then on the far right, you can see kind of the network information. Oh, somebody's parking in front of our house. So the first two races are on network, and then we're on NBCSN for Texas, and then back to NBC network for Indy through Belle Isle. So definitely have some good
Yeah.
momentum going into the season, being on big network TV. So it's good to see that for this year. I think
A lot of
that'll be
back-to-back races as well. Once we get into the season, right? So we got
mhm.
Barber, then straight to St. Pete, straight to Texas.
The first three
Um,
it's 3 weekends in a row. It's going to be busy.
yeah, yeah. No, that's going to be fun. Your first oval race,
But
apart from Indianapolis,
yeah,
of course.
Texas looks fun.
Texas.
It's like a cool
Yeah,
track.
it is. It's a tough one. Big banking. It's the first super speedway banking. Even in Indy Lights, we didn't get to go to any like super speedways per se, did
Hmm.
we?
No, other than
So
Indy, we didn't
you know
really.
that's going to be your first time. You know, going from horizontal to 45 degrees in the corner is gonna be interesting when you walk around it, or when we go look or drive around it in a golf cart
Yeah,
or
it's high
whatever.
banking.
Yeah, it's so. But the team had a great car there last year. Charlie, I think, was running. He got up into the top four most of the time, and they had some pit stop problems possibly.
Yeah, I think
But they
he was
both
running
finished in the
fourth,
top
and then
10, I think.
they I think he had a
Yeah,
spin towards the end. Um, but I think he got it back going, and again, it still finished
yeah,
decently from what I remember. I don't think he hit the wall.
I think so.
I
Yeah,
think he
so
just spun and got going. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else.
sure. And with Barber, St. Pete, how we finished there last year as a team with Sebastian, had the testing. Sebastian was pretty much fastest. You were only about half a second off, kind of mid pack, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, but
Uh,
ninth of the 12, and that was with and without push to pass, so it's always good. You
yeah.
don't want to just rely on that to get a flyer in.
Yeah, you never know with what everybody else is doing. We can only kind of judge what we're doing, and that's what's been great about Sebastian, hasn't it? These last
Hmm.
couple of tests, he's been up at the sharp end, and that's been some good data for us to go through for you, and you really judge yourself from him.
Hmm.
And if you got within a couple of tens, and there's been several corners, even at Barber, right? We were looking through the data the other day. You know, there was two or three sections where you were equal, if not
Yeah,
faster than him as well. So I think it's going to be a good combo. You both drive very similar as from where I'm sitting.
yeah, and we've talked about that I think before on the show, and maybe when we had Mike on, right? That it's like it definitely helps
Yes.
that you have two drivers that kind of want similar things. Um, and I think that's been oh, sorry, Poppy's barking. That was not that it wasn't there last year, but there's definitely some differences in driving. I think there was more difference in driving style between Charlie and I than Seb and I. think Seb and I are pretty similar. Like when he puts a change on and likes it, and then they put it on, I usually like it, and
Yes.
vice versa. So
Yeah.
that really helps accelerate the development process. And like I said, to give those engineers lots of data to work with and get
Yeah.
things
No, for
going.
sure. And that's been good. You know, he wants to do a lot of the simulator work at the Chevy simulator.
Hmm.
We've got a couple of days coming up there where you and him are going to share days, right?
Yep, yeah, we're going there next week, and then I think again before Texas. So we have, so yeah, kind of looking ahead to
Yeah.
the rest of the off season. We've got a couple sim days, and sometimes you'll. So the way that works, so you could run like 8 to 5 p.m. Break for lunch for half an hour or so, but like they end up being really long days because like there's no real car, right? So you don't have to like fuel
Yeah.
it, put it back to the setup pad, do a set down, and like get out and look at data. It's just like you're going the whole time
Yeah.
it's pretty physical too. Like the force feedback's quite good. At least it's like strong.
Mm.
But it just ends up being a long day. So having two guys there and like one's in the morning, one's in the afternoon, I think is kind of a good way to do it. And then you can back to back stuff like we were talking about.
I think get more out of each of you
Yeah.
individually, like you said, I think if you're starting to get a bit jaded towards the end of the day,
Yeah, he's like
like you say, you've been sitting at a
this
screen.
darn game.
Uh,
Well, it's not a game, but you know what I mean.
yeah, right. And it's kind of tough,
Yeah.
but no, it seems like Sebastian and you have the same thoughts, and he wants to help push the team, and
Hmm.
he's been bringing some good information. The new engineer, the current engineers are doing great, and it, like we said, we weren't very far off last year,
Mm.
but so it's not big differences. We're not talking like completely
No.
different philosophies on shock absorption or roll centers or downforce level or anything like that. It's nothing too revolutionary, is there?
No, and
Without
it's
giving too much away.
no, yeah. Like I think, I mean, we've, I would say, yeah, without going too much into it, I would say the biggest swings we've taken were probably in the shock department, like early on, just to try different options out, like try out different philosophies. But now that we've kind of honed in on what we like, it's kind of more tuning, right? And
Yes,
I think we've learned a lot there, which has been helpful. Um, yeah, but it's
and It's always good when you're both fast,
yeah, yeah,
right?
and your feedback's lining up and all that. That's definitely
Yes, yeah,
helps
there.
helps everyone. Yeah, but no, I think in just kind of looking at talking back to the Barber test, the you know the that's always a fun track to go to. I really like Barber. You actually never raced there, right? They didn't go there
No,
when you were doing it.
I think it did. When did it get built? Must have been like 2010
I
or the
actually
first
don't
race
know. Let me
2012, maybe.
let me Google it.
Yeah, get your other computer screen going. But no, it was. I think I remember the new DW12, the chassis that we're currently running, when it first came out was run there, and no, I never got
Yeah,
chance. But yeah, no, whenever we've
it
been there,
was opened in 2003.
it was over in
Yeah,
2003.
but
Crazy,
but
yeah.
but
So
they
that's
did run it as a bike track, I think, for a while,
yes,
before
big
cars ever came
motorcycle
there.
track.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't on the IndyCar calendar of any time all the way through when I was racing through 2009
Mm.
ish, 2010 sort of time. So, but no, we love it, right?
Yeah.
When we've tested there a lot in Indy Lights over the past 4 or 5 years. Beautiful facility, kind
Really
of.
well kept up. It's like going to
Oh yeah,
Augusta or something. Like it's manicured grass and everything. I really like it.
oh yeah, you don't get to see it too much like I do when I go out to corners
Mm.
and what have you. But all the scenery around there, the sculptures,
Mm.
and there's a Bigfoot sculpture out there, statue hidden in the woods
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
things.
the
It's
owner,
very
Mr. Barber,
very
is really into
cool.
his art, right? He has all these cool sculptures that and I like, and I actually don't know what the story is behind it. Like, does he have a groundskeeper, like the team that do they make them, or does he
Yeah.
just buy sculptures and then bring them there and put them there? I have
But
no idea.
but everything, even to like the handrails going to the bathrooms and embedded in the concrete, steps, there's
Yeah,
like shells and fish
it's
and birds
attention
and
to
things. It's
detail.
very interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's a cool place. I've always really liked right like Barber. Although I think if anybody was following our test day or the press release, the morning was a bit rough for us. Right, hadn't off and found the wall in turn 13.
Yeah, you weren't the only one
No,
to find the
everyone
wall
was
or
going
go off
off. It
that
was
day.
crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
It wasn't particularly cold,
it's kind of
but I think the
gusty. I
track.
don't know. It was weird.
Yeah, the tires that we were running, but just the whole scenario, maybe the wind conditions, but yeah, like 4 or 5 guys put it, experienced guys. As soon after, right after when you went off,
Yeah,
Grosjean went
packed it
off as
into one.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
was scared
so
for us to go.
no, it was a very difficult day.
Yeah,
Thankfully, you got back out. You weren't hurt, so you got back out and got back on the horse, right? But, half a day behind
yeah,
everybody else, which probably, if you'd have had a full day, I'm sure you would have been further up the field.
yeah. And
Um,
it's we were talking about it after the test, right? It's like it can be it's definitely tough when you have an off like that, and then you don't then just kind of in the back of your mind, you don't then you don't want to have another incident, right? So the
Mm.
being able to get back up to speed and kind of like compartmentalize that and just go ahead and do your job and go test, right? That's a skill you have to learn over time. But I was pretty happy that even once we got the car back, like within a run, I was kind of back to normal.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, that was one thing that I was very very pleased with your performance on that weekend on that day. Um, that such a high commitment track at the best of
yeah,
times, and then kind of getting bitten by conditions potentially, or maybe not. We don't blame the conditions necessarily. You were maybe a bit too fast
yeah,
to
a little
at that point,
optimistic.
right? That was it's kind of simply what it was.
Yeah,
But that corner, you were faster than Bourdais at the end of the day,
yeah,
right? Looking at the data. It wasn't like, oh crap, that corner's intimidating me. This is where I had a crash.
yeah,
No, you were. That was one of your best. That was probably your best corner
yeah,
at the end of the day.
yeah. And it
So
was it was funny when we were having our debrief. I was saying, it's like that corner was kind of taking the most mental sort of effort. I mean, it's like you said, it's
mm,
super high commitment, especially at the end of the day. The glare is low, and it's like it's kind of hard to
it
see,
was.
and because like you really have to when the glare's like that, you're like, I know I turn at the one, right? Because you really can't see that well until you kind of turn, and then like, okay, there's the apex. Yeah, I know, it's just kind of insane,
Yeah.
right?
I
And
mean, it's blind at the best of
yeah,
times, right? Because it's very undulating. You're going down a dip into 12, big compression going up into 13 and up over a crest that's totally blind.
yeah,
And then at this time of year, it's just huge. That's where the
yeah,
sunset
because
is,
you're
isn't
kind of
it?
facing west, right? And it's like just like picture that in your head for people watching, right? Like you're probably doing what 170 or so there. I mean, it's not the
Yeah.
straights aren't that long, but like because there's marker boards on the straightaway, 3-2-1. I think there's I don't think that I think it's just 3-2-1, maybe 4-3-2-1, and you're directly in front of you is like blocked by the sun. So your visual references aren't that good. So it's like you see the one and it's like turn. So you're just kind of trusting that you turn at the right point. Like that's a lot of commitment. And then down the compression up over the hill, and then once you start turning right, it's fine. But it's just that first like
Oh, really?
if you're just a hair late, then you're kind of tight coming into 13 coming up the hill. I mean, then you just kind of slow down and lose your
Yeah.
lap. But like it's definitely not an easy place to be when the glare is coming down. And I never drove the car without the aero screen there, but I remember driving there in lights, and it was just like that. So I don't think the aero screen's making it any worse
And
or
making an effect. There's no
better
real
really.
glare or anything.
No, it's pretty good really. They've done a
Yeah.
good job. I don't know if they
They
have a
use a matte
coating.
paint.
You can
I
kind of
don't,
see
some
on
guys have
that
been using,
picture from the top down here, like how
yeah.
the panels sort of matte there, and there's see that kind of coloring, that sort of thin film effect. There is some kind of a coating that's probably helping
Yeah,
out.
I think it kind of helps. And I think we're maybe gonna. Yeah, did you talk to the guys about potentially putting a
Yeah,
little bit of
yeah, like a
a
tint
tint?
thing. Yeah. So they we didn't have it in time for Barber, but they are working on
Okay.
that. Yeah. So just basically because we've done it before, where to kind of explain what we're talking about, like at the end of the day, when the sun's low, like just taping a giant, a thick piece of duct tape, basically. I mean, it's the gaffer's tape, but it's basically good duct tape, you know, at on the top portion of the screen, so it basically cuts the sun like your sun visor in your car does. But you can get like actual window tint and kind of do it more permanently, so
Yeah,
you can
I
still
think
see through it, and it's a little less like
I think
NASCAR at least.
even at yeah. Yeah, I mean it is. It's a windshield,
Yeah.
right? I mean, why not? But we've got we've got 2 months about till the end of April.
Yep. About
So
a month. Yeah, month and
I think.
yeah, 2 months. Yeah, end of April, month and a half until the start of the race season.
Yeah, so I think the glare might not be as bad, and you're probably on a race weekend wouldn't be running at five
That's
thirty
true.
at night.
Yeah, Texas though is
Uh,
kind of a night race, right? I think
Texas will
actually
be Texas will be tough.
we have our
Now,
start
obviously, you've
times.
got the banking. and the lights and everything. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
that
start
is
times 7 p.m. and 5 p.m. at Texas, and
yeah.
then
The 5 p.m. one might be tough.
yeah,
That might be
and
sunset.
then oh yeah, and I remember they announced this that Nashville starts at or the broadcast starts at 5:30. So green flags probably half an hour
Maybe
after the
six
broadcast
o'clock.
starts, right?
That'll be
That'll
cool.
be neat.
Across the bridge there
Oh,
on the
it's gonna be so
water. I'm
cool.
excited to see that street
I'm really
circuit.
excited for
Going
that one.
across a bridge both ways.
Yeah, crazy. Um,
Yeah, cool town as well.
yeah, and so yeah, we are getting within a month of the season, which kind of brings us to the next topic, which is we've got Content Day coming up, which you've probably been through back in the day, right? They would have
Mm-hmm.
done that back then, and I had my first experience last year, and basically that is where they, it's they they've also rolled it into like the annual drivers meeting this year, so it's just one time that you're actually going.
Okay.
Um,
Awesome.
so for COVID, and I think they've actually split things apart where you have the drivers that are in town versus people that are flying, are like two separate groups actually on 2 days to kind
Okay.
of keep everyone sort of safe and COVID and all that. Um, and but yeah, so basically you have all the IndyCar photographers, all of the NBC people there, and then they're doing all the cool glamour shots of like the broadcast, like the turn and look really intense and all that stuff, and all your official pictures and whatnot.
Silly stuff
Yeah,
with smoke and lights and everything, right? That end up looking really cool at the end of the day.
yeah, and it is crazy to see how how much they can get from um from such basic stuff like on the broadcast last year, all those they had like kind of the like electronic music over it, and it was like super intense, and it was like the dark pictures with the kind of purpley smoke and all that, and with the letters flashing, like it was just some lights and a guy like a guy with a bucket of dry ice with a tube, like a like a corrugated pipe, kind of hanging it over top of like, and you're down, you're here at the picture, and he's like up here with the ice tube, and draping the smoke on you. It was like just in a room in a convention center somewhere. Like it was not like
Yeah.
some fancy studio. It was like we were at a
No,
convention
nothing,
center and we
nothing.
found a
Yeah,
room.
it is kind of weird what it ends up looking like,
Yeah,
right? I remember one time they were dragging lights around us, and also I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing?
but then you
Whatever.
see
But
the
then
end
you see
product.
the end
It's
up in
great.
pitch in a magazine or the programs. A lot of this stuff is for,
Hmm.
right? They've got to take these shots early on, so they've got the content for not just the TV, the magazines. There's international stuff, international magazines, international TV, all around the world. So yeah, no, they make sure they get everything they possibly
Yeah,
need,
and I
right?
think there's also some like media roundtables where there'll be
Okay,
which they did last year as well. Like there'll be a kind of a bullpen of
do some
reporters.
interviews with
Yeah,
you and stuff.
you just sit on a they kind of bring you up, and people that have questions for you ask questions and all that. And yeah, it's fun, and
Cool.
it's kind of like the first time. I mean, this year it's different because, like I said, they're kind of splitting the in town and out of town people. But on a normal year, right? Like except for the guys that you see, if you train somewhere like PitFit where you see some of the guys regularly. But if
Yeah,
you're like I think Takuma lives out west, and he's in Denver or more in Boulder. Got
Denver,
guys like
Colorado, somewhere. Yeah.
Stefan out in Boulder, Jr. Like if you're out there, I mean, this is kind of the first time that you're seeing like all that you've got the whole the whole band's back together, right? And seeing your
Yes.
competitors for the first time, so everyone's
Yeah.
catching up,
Yeah.
and you can feel the sort of energies there that the season's about to start.
Yeah, because even at test days, we don't really, we're staying at a hotel. We might see the odd Chevy
Hmm.
guy, the Ilmore guys, or whatever. Maybe the odd driver at dinner or something. Um, but it's not like a race weekend where you're all getting together for a driver
No,
meeting and you're all together all the time in the press conferences, etc. So no, it's always a good one. I think in the driver meeting, did you do that
no,
last?
because
You did
our
that
deal
last
came
year.
together afterwards, right? I think it was in
That's
November or
right.
December last year.
So if I remember correctly, and it's probably changed over the years, but the driver meeting is pretty good for it's time. It's a couple hours. It's a little bit long and arduous, but I think it's where drivers can voice their opinions on the state of the union,
State of IndyCar.
as it were. Yeah, state of IndyCar, state of security, media, where they voice some
Yeah.
concerns. So make sure you're prepared as best you can for asking questions as well.
Copy. Yeah, I'll have my little notepad ready.
Good, good deal. Good
As a
deal.
rookie, I feel like yeah,
Yeah.
all my
Yeah.
years
Maybe
of
sit next to
experience.
Baudet.
Yeah.
Sit next to Baudet. Yeah.
So we can take some questions. Oh, Elaine's got. Oh, I think that was a typo. Murphy Copper is Barb. What's Barber like for passing? It's a tough track to pass at. For me,
Yes.
Barber is kind of lumped in with like your Laguna Secas, maybe Mid Ohio. Although Mid Ohio is probably better for passing rate, realistically. But it's like that class of track that's like short and windy and fast and intense, and like a ton of fun to drive. To drive, those are my favorite kind of tracks. Um, as opposed to, I think we've talked about this before, like I would prefer like a Laguna over, let's say, a Road America, right, where it's corner straightaway. Where I like the short, fast, intense tracks a little
Yeah.
more, but it does make it kind of harder to pass. And Barber is
Yeah.
notoriously difficult. Turn five really would be
And
the only.
not many long straights is there really. You've got to be making a mistake into some of these and I always kind of go back to nearly if you're driving at the limit of at limit of the brake
Yeah,
zone and you've got somebody even on your bumper,
yeah,
right? And you brake as late as you possibly can. They've got to brake a car length later than
yeah,
you to overtake you,
yeah,
right? So if you're already braking as late as you possibly can without potentially going off, nearly everywhere is difficult to
that's true.
pass
Yeah,
unless you get a good
yeah,
draft, right?
good
And I think
draft.
that's what
Yeah,
we're saying about road. Yeah, I think that's what we're saying about the Lagunas and the Barbers. There's not much drafting to get you
the
halfway
momentum. Yeah,
alongside or get you a bit of
yeah.
momentum into a good braking zone. There's a
Yeah.
couple into like turn five, maybe is probably the best.
Probably the best, but I think the thing with five though is that like you can just open your hands up and at a two and stay kind of tight, and it's so wide on exit that you're not really punished that much for being defensive there. Whereas like other tracks where
Good
the
point.
exit's a bit tighter, like you have to go so much slower through the mid corner, but like there's different lines you can take through turn five, so you can be a bit more defensive there.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point. But if you can stick it up in the inside there, you can nearly like double back
Hmm.
on the guys. Or if somebody does defend, there's potential of double
Yeah, the kind
backing
of
and
over and
like
under thing. Yeah.
over under type of deal. You do see a lot of that into eight nearly as well,
Mm.
which is actually the next corner, strangely after five. But
Yeah. Straight away it counts for two somehow.
yeah, there's two more corners in that straightaway.
Crazy. So from Corey, will your approach to testing at Texas be different in any way from how you approach road courses? Yeah,
Interesting.
that's a great
Yeah.
question. And Texas being an oval, the approach is usually a bit. I mean, it is inherently different. Like from a high level, the ovals are a bit more of a science project. There's like be a lot more very specific test items to kind of cross out. And for me, having never driven there, um, you will you will you know almost always start with a car that, or you always intend to start with a car that's pretty stable and probably has too much
Yes.
understeer for what you would want.
Intend is the
You
word.
intend to.
Intend to.
Sometimes it doesn't happen, right? And it's just the
No.
day, the track's different, or you don't quite get it right. But like
Yeah.
you intend to have a pretty stable understeering car, and you're going to creep up on it. It was like at Indy last year, that was an example of like we started too far the other way. It was like we had so much
Uh-huh.
understeer that like getting through ROP
It's
was hard because it
detrimental,
was like
right?
the car was like just it wouldn't turn. So then I was backing out of it to like
Yeah.
get weight on the front axle for it to actually turn. And we ended up
Mm.
just putting some wing in it, and then some front wing, and then it was actually easier to drive. So that's like, these cars are like an aerodynamic tool, right? I think we were talking about that with our, maybe Mike and I were chatting about just talking about NASCAR and some other series. It's like these things are such a science project, right? Like they're so finely
Yeah.
tuned, and everything's like on the razor edge, and if it's pretty easy to get out of the window pretty quick. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway, to get back to the question, the approach will be a bit more like building up to it, whereas a road course that
Mm.
and you've been to, you wouldn't really intentionally go there with a car that's like that is going to be off, or not your ideal car. You won't like start with a really understeery car and build up to it, because you like,
No.
on a road course you're braking and turning and all that, and like you're trying to make the car rotate, whereas you're kind of doing it a little bit more with the setup on an oval.
Yeah, very much so. And I think the great thing is, well, I mean, the good thing is for us this year, that they had a good car at Texas last year, and the car hasn't changed. And I don't think, from the bulletins that we were getting from Firestone, I don't think the tire construction or compound has changed either, which is another big effect, because obviously that's what
Yeah.
in contact with the ground for you and creating the grip for you, right? But so, I think throughout the years, you see these experienced teams um, can narrow in a little bit more. So, let's say, it's like a scale, I think, is probably the best way to describe it. How close like if 0 was your qualifying
Yeah.
setup, if you're a rookie team, you might start at
Yeah.
10, right? Away from, like you were talking about, the build up. But the better experience you have, the closer you can start to that qualifying
Yeah.
setup, or that ultimate setup, and then just keep tweaking it from there. And the guys had a good car there
Yeah.
last year. I doubt that you're going to start very dissimilar.
No, yeah, we probably won't be
Uh,
rocking the boat too much. And, and I think you brought up a good point. Like an oval car versus a road course car. Like, yeah, you might have some difference on your race qualifying setup, other than like fuel and ride heights, because the car will be lighter, so you
mm,
can run it lower during qualifying. But like big picture, you might have some small differences, but like on an oval, you definitely have a qualifying and a race car. Like they're two. I mean,
yes.
the basic principles are going to be the same, but like the setups will be definitely different.
Yeah, and if the rules allow you, I think didn't last year they had some compound cars on ovals where
Oh,
you
they
had
did
to
with COVID.
race what
That's
you
that's right. I
qualified.
forgot about that.
I mean, that's not. I mean, that's not
They had,
ideal,
yeah,
though,
it was like
right?
they had like
That's
a
not
park
what.
for May, basically. It was like after
Yes.
qualifying, they kind of left it. You couldn't touch the car.
Yeah, so you kind of qualified what you were going to race. So that was, but there was no testing,
No.
was there? There's no tire testing. They had mandatory pit stops
Hmm.
early, which is going to be different this
Yeah.
year. Tire longevity, tire management is going to be going to be interesting this
Yeah.
year. So yeah, it's going to be good to have a good day's testing there before we go
Yeah,
race.
I'm looking forward to it, and I've always liked the oval, so that'll be pretty fun and exciting. Be cool. But
Definitely.
yeah, and so switching gears, I think we've got content day coming up. We've talked about Barber. You have anything fun going on? What are you up to?
Oh, not much. I'm helping the missus flip one. Well, not flip one of these houses. We're renovating a house for. I think we talked about it last
Yeah,
time a little bit. That's her business. She's becoming a landlord.
there you go.
So renters are moving in on
Cool.
Saturday on our first rental
There you
property.
go.
So,
Congrats.
but the most exciting thing, that's
Yeah,
work, right? Bollocks to, working. No, not bothered about work, but baseball
there
season
you go.
starting. There you go. I'm an addict
And
on
Darren's son is a
baseball.
baseball star, or to be soon. He's a
Hopefully, yes. So,
how fast does he pitch? Like 70 miles an hour or something?
oh yeah, 72 miles an hour on his fastball. He's got 4 or 5 different pitches that he can locate. His curveball, his changeup, his slider. He's working on a cut fastball. It's so much fun. It's so much fun. How deep we go into
Yeah.
racing and shocks and data. I'm abusing him going so deep on
You're applying the racing
onto his
mentality
work.
to
It is. It's
baseball.
great. I love it. It can never be good
Yep.
enough. I love it. I love it. I love. Hopefully, he's getting that. He works out by himself in the basement. I think I
Got a
was
little
telling you
squat
he's
rack and
deadlifting.
everything down there.
He's got a squat rack. Yeah, he's deadlifting. What did he do? 215
There you go.
yesterday. So not too bad, right? What do you deadlift?
My,
400 or
yeah,
something
for
stupid? Yeah.
last week at PitFit, we were doing like 3 sets of 2, and I ended at like 420 for 2. Um,
Oh
so
yeah.
that's also with the hex bar, which is
Yeah, that's
you
what
can
that's
get
what he
away with a
has
bit
to
more.
help his
Yeah,
technique right now.
it's
So
easier on your lower back and all that.
yeah, he's only
But he probably
14, right?
weighs
He's
like
not.
he's probably half my weight, so in terms of
Yeah,
like the ratio, it probably works
he's
out, right?
yeah, he's 125, something
Maybe
like
like
that. So
60%,
he's getting. He's
70%.
we want. I want him to be heavier. We want you to be holding your
Yeah.
weight at what 150,
No,
160. What are you
I'm
now?
like 172 is like my I'm like plus or minus
That's what.
a couple pounds from there.
Yeah, if I could get Ethan to 170 and deadlifting 400 pound, he'd be throwing 100 mile an
There you go.
hour. So that's the
And
plan.
it's off
So
off
yeah,
the
so that
MLB.
starts. Our first baseball tournament starts the last weekend of March. So now that the season's been pushed back, I'm able to go to a few of his
Cool.
events.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah. So we're going all over the country, unfortunately, for Lauren by herself.
Driving, yeah. It's like
Yeah. So no, it's all good fun. And then obviously we got Indy and Texas. Oh, Texas and then Indy, right? Texas
Texas
is the end of the month.
Texas. I don't know if they've announced the event name. I don't know if it's the Rev Group GP again this year. Um,
But the Texas,
Yeah, Texas.
test
Oh, sorry,
is at the end of
Texas, and then we have
March.
a Indy Open test. Um,
Yes, and
before
that's going to be
that'll be
great,
good too.
right?
Two,
Talk
I
about
think it's
that. I mean,
2 days, isn't it?
the fact that we signed up this early and we're ready to go, and they've already got your car ready,
The
the oval
Speedway
Indy
car,
oval
yeah.
car. There's going to be no ROP rookie orientation. This year we're going to be way ahead of where we thought last year, and you qualified fastest on the team out of the 3 cars last year already, and head of
I
Penske.
know
So,
Tony was just ahead of us, right? We were like
oh,
we
did he
yeah
keep you by?
we
He
were
was right
like right
next to you,
beside
Lon,
each other.
right? Yes,
Close
okay.
enough.
So still pretty damn good. So we got all this is
Yep.
extra. All this is
And I'm
extra, which is
looking forward
good.
to be back at Speedway. That's gonna be fun. Be some fun testing
Yeah,
there.
and what you've been doing in this kind of time off apart from working out?
What have
Come
I been
on.
doing?
Let-
Well, conveniently, I have my so the skies have finally cleared, so I can get my telescope back out, and I've been making. If we kind of talked about it, I showed the CAD that I drew up, but I've got the actual semi almost finished product of my barn door tracker. So it's basically the two. So this is basically the mount. The bottom bolts onto a wedge that you can angle like this, and that just sits on a tripod. I have like a ball head mount that goes here, like one of the swivelly ones for a camera that mounts to, and then this stepper motor spins this threaded rod that mates with this piece of hex stock that's tapped there, and basically as the rod spins, it sort of opens the door up. You can't really see it. Maybe you can kind of see it.
You can
You'll
kind of
see
see.
it
Keep going. Keep going. Keep
opening
going.
up.
Keep going. You're very small on the screen.
Yeah, it's
Remember.
true. So you can kind of see in
But you
here.
can get the idea that opens up and those hex bars. So tell
So
everybody you turn
yeah, so I
you,
went
you
and machined some stuff in the shop, turned these down, and you know, little bearing fit and all that. These are just plastic IGUS bearings, so they're not super tolerant, but still the bearing surfaces were all within half a thou of spec, so I was pretty proud of
all right, not
myself.
too bad,
Haven't
fella,
lost my
not too
touch.
bad.
um,
You weren't happy with one cut, but you were happy with another
yeah,
cut. But there
I
was
changed the tool, and then so the like I don't know if anybody's ever used a lathe that's watching, but basically you've got your tool post head on the cross member that like moves left and right and in and out. You know, your chuck with your
The
that
cuts
actually
cuts the
cuts and that
metal,
holds
right?
your tool, and it had like indexing notches, like 0, 5 degrees, 10 degrees, because for different tools you might angle it differently and all that. But the zero wasn't quite parallel, so it was actually cutting, even though it should it should have been perpendicular. It was off by a couple degrees. So basically, I just kind of I indexed the tool to be on like a 45, so it was coming in at a point, so there was clearance on for facing and for turning down, and then it was a lot nicer after that. So
You got, and the team manager Scott
yeah, he
Hahn,
came out and he was like, right on.
he caught you, didn't he?
No, they were okay with it. I mean, I asked them, and the
Yeah, no, that's
the
right.
the the one of the new guys, Chris, got me all set up and making sure that I knew what I was doing and all that. And but when I was in school, right, doing the Formula SAE stuff, I mean, we like if I wasn't studying or in class, I was in the machine shop or in the workshop, basically working in a shop for 4 years, right, doing manual stuff,
I love
CNC
it.
welding, all like
Making
just
something.
making stuff. And I was
I think
go
the
ahead.
boss man would be very proud
Yeah,
of you wearing that
just
orange
channeling
shirt
my
and
inner AJ.
making. Yeah, no, I think that's great. You're the old school racing
Yeah,
driver.
yeah. The crew chief for the 4 car, Mark, came over. He's like, "You be careful, or else I'm you keep doing this, I'm gonna get you an apron, and you're gonna be making parts for the car."
If it makes it
Yeah,
go faster,
I'll
I'm
do
gonna
it.
make sure you get in there.
Some spacers, but no, I don't know. I was actually talking to one of my buddies from the SAE team back at Queens. And, we were just like chatting and stuff, and I was saying how much I really appreciate like the lessons we
Yeah.
learned doing all that, because
Oh,
and we were so
great.
lucky because the school Queens has a huge machine shop, probably one of the bigger ones, if not the biggest one in Canada for students. And its main purpose is they have 4 or 5 full-time machinists that are making like constantly making parts for grad students and research projects like that electron microscope that I showed you a picture of.
Oh my
Most of that
gosh.
was
Have you got a picture of that?
not on here, but on the next one.
No, we
I'll
got to talk
yeah, we
about
can
that one time. That is
yeah, we can
bonkers.
talk about that for sure. And like most of that was made there. Like it's all it's all handmade
That is
machine stuff. So,
crazy.
but the other side of it was that the design teams, the Formula SE guys and the Baja guys,
Mm,
got like mm, not unrestricted, but supervised 9 to 5 access to a full size machine shop. And we, the
unbelievable.
teams had some onus to like teach their rookies the basics, right? But then like I'm not a like not a ticketed machinist by any stretch of the imagination, and so these guys were there teaching us and helping us learn. And I was saying to my friend that I was so grateful that like I actually gained those skills there, because like where else you get to
Isn't
get the
that
chance
great?
to learn how to use a CNC mill or lathe or you know, do all
Yeah.
this stuff. So and I don't know, I also just really enjoy it. I think that's it. That would be just
Well,
a
you've
fun
got the
job.
ability. You've got the Yeah, you've got the unique ability for me is you can design something and
Yeah,
make it,
just go to the machine shop and do
right?
it. And I don't know, I still have my
If you
drawings.
have
I don't know where they
if
went.
you have the shop or a lathe or something, you talk about getting a little lathe for the garage or
Yeah, a
something,
little
right? I
benchtop
think
one
you
or
should do
something.
it.
Hey, for
I love
telescopes,
watching
like
these guys on YouTube,
'cause
like restoring old knives and
yeah.
rusty things and milling wood turning wood and things. So
Oh, I
you've got me
I
into.
saw this thing on. I think it was on. Of course, it showed up on my suggested ads. It was like this guy that makes these homemade. They're like this big. They're little replica cannons, and he turns it out of a piece of steel, bores it out, and drills a little slot to put the fuse in, and he like a little ball bearing, and stuffs it in with the
What?
gunpowder and a little like a cotton wad,
Oh,
little
that is
ball bearing, and then it
awesome.
lights it, and it like it's on wheel, like it machines the wheels and everything, and it's like a handheld one, and it shoots it, and it rolls back. It's like that'd be like stuff like that. It'd be fun to make stuff like that.
How much fun is that? Well, just like what you're doing there,
Yeah.
right? So you got a camera. So you would. I don't think we finished
Oh
explaining.
yeah. So
We probably talked
yeah.
about
So
it a
basically,
little bit
the
before, but
camera mounts here, and you essentially you align the axis of rotation, which is with these two hinges, with the axis of rotation of the Earth, which basically means you point it at the North Star. I'm going to mount like a little home. I'm just going to get a tube and put some little crosshair on it just to like line it up, or you can get like a laser pointer or something.
Yeah.
And then the difficult part, not the difficult part, but like the programming part, because you could easily build a dumb circuit to just turn this motor at a constant rate without like a computer,
Sweet.
just like put some breadboard and like like battery and all that stuff. Like that wouldn't be that hard. But the problem is, as the board opens up, the ratio of like how many degrees of rotation the boards open up by per degree of rotation of the shaft changes. So basically,
Oh.
the motor has to slow down, or has to slow down as the board opens up. And the coefficients, it's like something like a cos a theta, where it's the angle. Those coefficients are just determined by like the geometry of this whole thing. Um,
How you gonna program that then?
so using an Arduino microcontroller, which is one of these little guys, this
Oh,
is like a
blimey.
motor shield, but you basically just you kind of plug it into your computer. You program it in C plus, which is a programming language, and there'll be like I'll have a rotary pot, so like a rotary potentiometer, with a little servo arm to basically track, so that the board will know where in the angular position the door is, and then it'll
Okay.
for each step it'll tell the motor, okay, you're at position 1, your rate is this. Whereas if it's like position 85 out here, it's at this rate. So that little
Okay.
control system will essentially slow the motor down as it opens up to keep the angular displacement constant
To keep so that keeps what you're focusing
in
on
in the frame,
in
so it
shot.
doesn't trail. Because like
Okay.
with these deep space photos, it's like 5-10 minute exposures. So like if the stars are moving in the frame, and you're pretty zoomed in, um, at once you take the picture, it won't be a nice pinpoint. It'll be like a bit of a line, right? Which you don't want. You want nice
Oh, a bit
pinpoint
of a
stars.
blur type. Yeah.
So
Okay.
with the lens that I have, the if you kind of stick your hand out about at like arm's length, and like your palm is about the size of the area that it's taking a picture of. Um,
Okay.
but when it's zoomed in, it just you need to have that tracking, or else you get the star trails. So that's the whole point. So I mean, it's just a
Cool.
fun off-season project, and kind of
I
an
love it.
excuse
I
to get
love it.
in the
You got to
shop.
get
And
plenty of yeah. You got to get plenty of pictures so we can get them on
yeah,
here next
I will.
time rather than you
Hoping
just
to have
jump.
it working, but with by the end of the weekend or so, I have a couple parts that I'm waiting on, just some capacitors and resistors for the circuits and all that.
And is there better times of the year? Because spring is pretty clear
I
skies,
think,
right?
yeah,
Or
it's
is it?
mainly dependent on the skies. Like if I mean there was lots of cool stuff to see, and I'm just like I'm just getting started in all this. I'm definitely still a
Yes.
beginner, but like there's lots of stuff to see in the winter. Like Orion, you can see really well, but it's like
Mhm.
it's gray all the time. Like I think I've maybe pulled my telescope out like once or twice, you know, since December. So, but now it's nice and clear, so
Yeah.
there'll be lots to see. So, I guess the best time is just when it's clear out.
Just when it's
Yeah,
clear. Okay.
and because like
I just
certain
didn't know
times
if
of
like
year, like you can't see Saturn and Jupiter right now. They're like they you can, but their like Saturn rise is during the day. So like it's there, but you just can't see it. Like that's
ah,
like a summer object that during the summer you can see it, because those is where the planets are in their relative motions. We have
to
like
the
our
sun.
dark side will be facing Saturn, whereas right now our light side faces it.
Okay.
So just stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when
Good fun off-season
yeah,
project with us having some time
yeah,
off, right?
Murphy Copper. When's the big test day? Tentatively this weekend, I would say, is the big test day for the the camera thing. It'll depend on how quickly I have my breadboard, which is basically like a a project board for circuits where for your pins with like see all these pins here. It's a board
Mm-hmm.
where you'll have certain rows are connected vertically, certain are connected horizontally, so you don't have to like put wires everywhere. You stick it in the board, and you can kind of like prototype your circuit. So I'm just doing that right now to get the electronics working, and once I do that, gonna finish up writing the code for this thing. So hopefully by the end of the weekend, but we'll see if I have enough time to do all that. Um,
That's
and then,
funny.
oh yeah, on just as the last thing, on the weekend, one of our friends, one of Nicole's best friends' husband, he's doing this challenge where it was some internet thing, I guess, but it's like every his name's Michael. He's a huge IndyCar fan. Um, every 4 hours, he's running 4 miles for 48 hours straight. He's like a mega runner for his thing for his 27th birthday. He ran 27 miles or something crazy. So I said
Holy.
to him that I'd run with him for like one or two of them just to give him some company. But because he's starting at 5 o'clock Friday night and going through 5 o'clock Sunday night. So
48
basically running
hours?
48
Jeez.
miles in 2 days. Yeah,
Wow.
it's a lot of volume. So see
Well,
how that goes.
don't burn yourself
Yeah,
out. Don't
I'm
burn
I'm
yourself
I'm
out.
just doing one or two just to keep him company. So
And did you see the is it the mini marathon or is going to be
yeah, I
virtual
did.
again
Yeah,
this
I
year?
did
The
see that.
500 festival.
Yeah, weird because Nicole did it for the first time. My girlfriend Nicole did it 2 years ago, and then her and her dad Corey did it last or during
Last.
quarantine. They were supposed to do it in May for real, but obviously it went virtual, so they just did a
Yeah,
weekend. And
unfortunately it's been
that's how all this stuff is going. But we were kind of
yeah.
talking about it. It's like, oh, she was saying, oh, well, it's outside. But the problem is, so many people do it. Yeah, it's outside, but like
Yes.
at the
Not all
in the
together.
paddock or whatever it's called before the corral with all the groups, you're like, you know, like it's like standing room
Right
only.
next to
So
each other.
it'd be pretty hard to
But no,
do
there's
that
vaccines being given at the
this
Speedway. I heard
weekend.
on the
Yep.
radio this morning. So some states are opening back up as well. So just keep those vaccines going. Didn't they say some? I think I heard. If you correct me if I'm wrong, maybe the whole country is going to be vaccinated or could be vaccinated by
That's
May.
I saw that was a statement that I think Biden made early in the week. So let's
Yeah.
hope
So
that's true.
keep fingers
Fingers
crossed. May's
crossed.
always a
May
good
is a good
month.
month. Yeah, that would be a nice way to cap things off, right? We can get back to
Yeah.
being being around people. Awesome. Well, I think we'll wrap it up there about an hour. So thanks
Yeah.
everybody for
Wow,
yeah,
that
it
went
was
on
went by
a
pretty
while.
quick. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll tune in either next week or the week after to see if just scheduling guests and all that. But stay tuned for
Yeah, well, maybe try and get somebody else on
mhm,
in the next couple of
yeah, for
weeks.
another
See if
guest.
Tony or somebody can come
Yeah,
on.
get some more friends coming on. Alrighty. Thanks everybody.